Hi everybody, welcome back. My name's Morgan. This is my channel, Pisces Paperbacks, and today I'm going to tell you about all of the series that I am not going to finish. A while ago, in a midnight fit of inspiration, I decided to create a sheet, like a page on my reading spreadsheet, where I could track every series that I could remember ever reading, and like some of the romance. I've read a lot of romances that were part of like series that I do not remember, or like I'm not ever going to, like I don't even think about it as like a book in a series, so that it does not count and I'm not putting it on there. But generally, this list contains every series that I remember reading. And I wanted to talk to you about the 14 on the list that I have read one or more books from that I do not plan on finishing or reading any more from. Notably absent from this list are the Six of Crows duology and the Shades of Magic trilogy, both of which I had planned on not finishing, and then my friend Tatiana convinced me that I should read them. The Six of Crows duology because those two are like some of her favorite books now and she thinks I'd really like them, and the Shades of Magic series because she enjoyed them and made them sound pretty good. So yeah, I want to talk about the 14 series that I'm not going to finish. There's a lot of reasons for these. I'll get into them for each of them, and this will just be like a fun, quick little video, and I love spreading negativity, so let's get on into it. I will say that on some of these I am open to convincing. So if there's a series on here that you like really love for some reason and you think that I would really enjoy it and have like a reason you think I'd enjoy it, let me know. I'm open to hearing all opinions, but for now these are the ones that I'm just like, I'm okay. Starting off with an example of, because I just read it so long ago and I don't care, Divergent by Veronica Roth. This is one of the classic dystopian trilogies that took America and the world by storm like 10 years ago. This was also, I would say, the beginning of the end for dystopian, and I read the first book and I loved it, like loved it. Never read the second one, never read the third one, never even saw any of the movies, but I heard bad things about the series as it went on, and I was like, I'm okay ending it here, so that's what I did. These are also in no order, so up next is the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. This is like a YA mystery series, and while I love mysteries, and I did like enjoy the first book for most of it, I have heard that the series is like 3 books that are just one mystery. There's not like individual plot arcs for each one, and I just like don't care enough. Like I didn't like the first book enough to want to read the other 2, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I've also read another Maureen Johnson book that I didn't like love, so I'm okay letting that one go to rest. Then I have The Beautiful by Renee Audie. This is like a historical fantasy series that was supposed to like bring vampires back, and while the first book was like fine, I had some like, I just didn't really like enjoy it. Definitely not enough to read the next one, especially since I feel like there are other vampire books coming out that I'm even like basically in concept I'm more interested in because they're not historical, and I've been struggling with historical lately. So yeah, I'm just not gonna read these. And then following up, another more modern one, I think it's called like The Nightmare Verse, but the first book is A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. I did not really enjoy the pacing of this book. I don't know, I read this a while ago so I don't really remember, but I remember being like, it's fine, but I don't really like it, if that makes any sense. Up next, popular book, and then I didn't hear as much about the sequel that came out recently, but the Serpent and Dove series by Shelby Mahurin. I actually really enjoyed the first book, but it was very like, yeah, it was good. I really liked it. It was a fun YA fantasy. I really liked the romance. I am someone who reads a lot of romance and enjoys a sex scene in my book if it like enhances the relationship or the plot in some way, so I really enjoyed that in that book. And yeah, but I didn't like care enough to read on, especially since the books in that series are literally enormous. Like they're huge. They're like 5, I'm, as we know, scared of big books now, but they're all like over 500 pages, and it's just way too long for me. Next, another YA, the Hazel Wood series by Melissa Albert. I just didn't like this book. I did not think it was successful in what it was trying to do, and I just like, it's like this dark fantasy situation where the main character becomes kind of obsessed with finding a copy of this book of dark fairy tales that her grandmother wrote, and it's just like, I did not like it. If you did not like the Hazelwood, I would recommend trying out Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. I think they have similar vibes, but I think the Rules for Vanishing was better and creepier. Another throwback one, the Vampire Academy series by Rochelle Mead. I have many a fond memory of reading this series in 6th grade. Me and my friend Linda, we would get the book and then we would share it. So one of us would read it during like class and one of us would read it during like lunch and recess. And like that's how we got through the first like 3 or 4 books in the series, but I never read past that. And at this point, like that was when I was 12 and I'm 24 now and I just don't care. I know that there's like a read along that's been going on this year, like rereading the entire series. And while I'm like good for them, there are other Rochelle Mead books that I'm more interested in, I think. So I'm okay letting Vampire Academy live in my past. Similarly, Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. This is like a classic children's fantasy series. You've probably heard of it. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, The Magician's Nephew, etc. There are like 7 books in this series, and I had a bind up of all of them, so I would just read it straight through, and I literally have no idea which book is which, like where they separate. And I remember getting like, probably I got to the 5th book, and I was just like, this is boring and I'm tired. So I put it down, and I think I give it away. I don't think I have it anymore. This one kind of makes me sad, but The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. This is the first book in a series, like an adult horror fantasy, and so many people loved this book last year. I unfortunately was not one of them. It's a really cool idea about a girl who is kind of her mother was accused of witchcraft, and they live in this very like religious, almost puritanical community, and like she brings on these plagues, and it was very interesting in concept. I did not personally enjoy it, unfortunately, even though I definitely see how other people would. So this is not me saying that book is bad, but I'm just not going to read the next one. And then the next one, I literally do not know the name of the series, but the first one is Feed by Mira Grant. I actually really, really liked this book. Feed is it's like 20 years 15 years post-zombie apocalypse. America is kind of like zombies are a part of day-to-day life at this point, you know what I mean? Like, they were coping, and these 2 teenage journalists are invited to do press on this post-zombie presidential campaign, and there's like a conspiracy, and I really, really enjoyed this book. And I don't want to say it because there's like it's a spoiler, but there is like a pretty large reason that I don't think I will like the next books as much, involving possibly the absence of my favorite character. So I am just going to let this one be a fun one that I really liked, but I'm not going to carry on. Another one from childhood, and it's like it's been too long, and that is A Series of Unfortunate Events. There's a possibility that I could have reread this one, by Lemony Snicket, by the way, if you didn't know, but there are 13 books in this series, and that is so much. And it's just like, that's so many. I have so many other things I want to do with my time that, unfortunately, Lemony Snicket's lovely, funny, childish writing, in a good way, is going to have to be a pass for me, and I'll just finish watching the show, I guess. I don't know. Up next is one I do actually feel pretty strongly about, and that is the Women's Murder Club series by James Patterson. So this is a James Patterson series about a group of women solving crimes in San Francisco. One of them is a murder detective with the police force, one of them is an assistant attorney general for the city, one of them is a reporter, and one of them is a medical examiner for the city. And four of them kind of like use their individual skills to solve serial killer crimes. And I read the first 3 books of this series. The first one was like pretty good. I liked it. The second one was fine. Honestly, I was reading them because they were available as audiobooks. And I was like, I guess I'll listen to something. And I got to the 3rd one, and I'm going to talk about this. I don't care that it's a spoiler. So the attorney general, she is in an abusive marriage. Her husband is verbally, emotionally, and physically abusive. And this is revealed over the course of the 2nd book. And at the very end of the 2nd book, she confides in her friends and the 3 other women, and they kind of start forming a support network so that she can eventually leave her husband. And then in the 3rd book, she does leave her husband, and then she is killed thoughtlessly by the villain in the 3rd book. And not only is the villain, like whoever the serial killer is in the 3rd book, a rabid caricature of people who are opposed to capitalism. It just felt so unearned that this woman, who is the only Jewish character, she's like openly and it's explicitly on the page that she's Jewish, which does not happen that often in books, you might be surprised. The only Jewish character, she's just left her abusive husband, she's finally feeling a little bit more confident in her life, and then she is murdered for reasons that are honestly not very well justified in terms of like the context of the book. It's just kind of random, like as a show of power to the other women in the women's murder club, and it's like, I don't want to read anymore. I'm okay and I'm done with that. It left such a bad taste in my mouth and I hated it. And I'm pretty sure she gets replaced by an Asian woman in the next book. So it just felt very like swapping women in for each other. So I'm still mad about that. I think I listened to that book like over a year ago. The next two are a little less intense, and that is the Lords of London series by Ella Quinn. This is a romance series. It's right here, the first one, The Most Eligible Lord in London, and I just didn't like this. It's a romance series, a historical romance series. I love historical romance. I'm very happy just reading historical romances one-offs without paying attention to the series, but I was like, oh well, this is like, it's a new release, I've just bought it, it's the first one, I might as well like pay attention to this. I didn't really like the book. I thought it was boring. There's only one sex scene and it happens after they're married or after they're engaged, and it's just like, the characters were so stupid. The conflict was this, that she thinks he's a rake, but he's not actually a rake, so he's just like being nice and courting her, and every time she's like, no, don't talk to me, and it's like, girl, doesn't action speak louder than words? He's done nothing wrong, and you know that, you acknowledge that, but you're like, no, he must be bad. It was just kind of stupid, and I didn't like it, so that one's no finishing for me. And then the last one I want to talk about is The Sky Without Stars. I don't know what the series is called, but Sky Without Stars is the first one. It's by an author duo. One of them is Jessica Brody. The other one, I don't remember her name. And this is a sci-fi retelling of Les Mis. And so I read this like 3 years ago. I read it in 2019. I got it from my library at school, so it was back when I was still in college, and it was just, I only liked one of the three perspectives, and I thought the other perspectives were both too dumb to live. Also, as a casual enjoyer of Les Mis, but someone who has, in my time, enjoyed many a Les Mis fanfic, my favorite characters weren't even in it. Like, this book is like almost a prequel. It's literally like almost a prequel. So it was just very strange, and they're so long. These books are so long, so I'm not gonna finish it. Although it's so funny because I went to the bookstore today, and I know I'm not supposed to be buying books, but I bought a couple of books, don't look at me. And I saw the third book in this series, and I was like, damn. Time flies, man. That's the 14 series. I hope you found this interesting. I always think it's interesting when people like decide to read or not read, and like, do they have reasonings for it beyond just like, I'm not interested, especially with series, because like, I always thought I was a series person, but looking at my spreadsheet, I have completed so few series in my life. It is embarrassing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if there are any series that you started that you're just like not feeling, or if there's any that you think that I'd like that I can like commit to the whole thing of. Bonus points if the entire series is already published. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Bye!